how to optimize the functionalities of Power BI. A recorded version of this webinar will be available after the meeting, and we'd love to hear from you, so please drop your questions in the comments section. And for those of you just joining us, welcome to our Power BI Part 1 session. And let's get started if Actor you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Charlene. All right, guys, so welcome. So I'm Akhtar. I work with FRCI as a consultant. I'm also leading a business unit where we do BI amongst other projects. So I would just like to request everybody to, if possible, keep their mic off. But at the same time, I would also like to have questions as you have them. So I will definitely have time for questions at the end. But for the session to be the most interactive, I would like to have questions from you if you have. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask your question. Right. So I think everybody can hear me. Didier, can you hear me?
Yes, all good.
Okay, good. Right. So let's get started, guys. So we'll have this session in English, but of course, if we have French-speaking people, if you need some clarification, so I can also do some part of explanation in French. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in French if you can, or if you can't do it in English. So I don't mind either. Right. So let's get started. So we are here to learn a bit more about Power BI, right? So what it is all about, how the licensing works, what are the different options that you guys have. So how can you better position Power BI or use it for yourself? So first thing, I just want to to clarify, I would say, some of the aspect of Power BI. So Power BI today is what we call an analytics tool, right? So Power BI allows you to do analytics and of course not reporting, right? So just clarify this part. It's an analytics tool and not a reporting tool. However, you can also use Power BI to extract data, to present data in a different manner based on different data sources. Right. So just a bit of history for those that are probably used to BI or to analysis of data. You've heard about a couple of options that were there in the past and still there actually, with especially Microsoft Excel. There were a couple of tools or add-ons available in Microsoft Excel. You would have heard about something called Power Pivot, Power View, Power Map. This kind of stuff was released as part of Excel to provide users, business users, I would say, the ability to query data and to present data in an appealing manner, right? So this has been the motto of Microsoft since a couple of years now, is to allow more and more people to allow something that we call self-service BI. Okay? So self-service BI allows users to build their own dashboard, to build their own reports, and to do their own analysis. So to some extent, we were able to do them using Microsoft Excel. A lot of you guys have seen people slicing and dicing with Excel, with Power View especially. So you can create that type of view that you're seeing on my screen today. You could have built those type of views using Power View, which was part of Excel at some point. But then recently there was Power BI that was released. The objective of Power BI again is in line with the self-service BI. So it brings you data and try to do things in a very simple manner than if you have to do it with like a proper BI tool. Because remember, Microsoft has been in the BI, I would say, in the BI quadrant since a couple of years now. I would say since SQL Server 2005, Microsoft has been playing in the BI area with a number of tools at that time, with SQL Server itself, with tools that you have heard about, for example, reporting services or analysis services. And at some point, I think it was in 2010, where Microsoft introduces Sharepoint Performance Point, which was a set of tools that gives you the ability to come to a BI solution or to have a BI dashboard, right? Well, this was quite complicated, I would say. It was quite complex to build reports, even if there was tools like reporting services, which was quite easy to use, but remains an IT tool. Power BI brings another dimension of the way you can build your report, right? You can create visually appealing report, nice and sexy looking reports, and without much effort. Of course, you can extend and you can build complex report, but I will give you some example where you can very, very easily build some nice look and feel and some nice dashboards out of Power BI. Right, so this is to set the scene, right? So today, Power BI is like it's a BI tool, and I want to take you through it. Wait a minute, let me just go back again. I want to show you that video that gives you a bit of a brief of what Power BI is today and what can you do with it, and then I will take you into further details.
Akhtar, the volume is not coming for the video, I believe.
All right, so I will share this afterwards so you can get, for those that didn't have the opportunity to view the video completely. Right, so let's move ahead. I wanted to show you this visual just to give you an idea of today. Power BI, the perception is Power BI is a reporting tool, okay, that allows you to create nice looking dashboard, which is true to some extent. But Power BI also is a tool that allows you to connect to different data sources, right? So on this visual, you can see, I'm sorry, just to, I'm getting some feedback from other peoples that are saying there are no audio. Can somebody confirm? DJ, you getting audio?
Yours, yes, but not on the video.
What's strange. Okay, anyway, I will share the video later on so you can get the. Okay, so let me continue. So first of all, Power BI allows you to connect to a number of data sources, right? So it can be structured data. So for example, you can connect to Excel, to any other database, to any system like SAP or whatever. But you can also connect to unstructured data. For example, you can connect Power BI to Facebook. You can connect Power BI to any website. I'll give you some cool example of how you can link Power BI to a website. It doesn't matter what website, you can connect Power BI to any website and retrieve data from it. And then if that data makes sense to you, you can use that data, right? So, and of course, you can render the report in a browser, or you can render a report on an app, whether it's in companion app on a Windows or it's an iOS or an Android device. You can also have an app that would render that report. Of course, you have different views of that report. You can have a mobile view as well, which helps you to better display that reports on a mobile device. Right, so you have heard in that, you haven't heard, but you have seen probably in that demo or video that there is something called Power BI Desktop, right? So I just want to highlight that here there are a couple of options that you have if you want to go Power BI, right? So first, you have Power BI Desktop, right? So just to clarify, Power BI Desktop is a free report authoring tool, which means that Power BI Desktop is the tool that you will use to create report. Okay, creating report is free. You can download Power BI Desktop now and then start designing or start building your reports, start connecting to data sources, etc., etc. Right? So now if you want to share those reports with your colleagues, or you want to share it with higher management or whatever, so you have to share that report in a common repository. And there are two possibilities for that. You either go cloud, so you share it on the cloud, or you can share it on premise. So if you have a server, so you will see on my slide here, there's something called Power BI service. Power BI service is the cloud service that allows you to publish and share your report. Now, if you don't want to go cloud, because a number of customers have a number of good reasons where they don't want to go cloud and they want to stay on premise. Fair enough. So if you want to stay on premise, you have to install a server locally, and there is a version of Power BI that runs on premise. The version is called Power BI Report Server, right? So I'll get back in details with these couple of options that you have. So there is another way that you can share your report is using Power BI Embedded, right? So these are the options. So now if you want to use Power BI Report Server or Power BI Embedded, you need to purchase a special license called Power BI Premium. Okay, so this is what you need if you want to go Power BI Report Server or Power BI Embedded. Right, so I just want to clarify one more thing here is for Power BI Report Server. So for you to have the Power BI on premise, okay, so again, I'm talking about sharing the report, not building the report. Building the report is free. So to have Power BI Report Server on premise, you have two options. Either you buy Power BI Premium, I'll get back to Power BI Premium in another slide, or if you have SQL Server Enterprise license, then you are allowed, you can install Power BI Report Server on your server locally, right? So two licensing options there, either Power BI Premium, or if you have a SQL Server Enterprise license with software assurance, then you can install Power BI Report Server on premise and you can start sharing your reports among your colleagues internally, right? So there are a couple of differences between Power BI Report Server, the on-premise version, and Power BI Service, which is the cloud version, right? Couple of stuff are not supported, so I'll give you some more details as we go along, right? Power BI Embedded, the last one, is the ability for you to create a report and then take that report visual and embed it in a web page somewhere. It can be a web page, your website, public-facing website. It can be an intranet. It can be any web application. You can embed those Power BI visuals. But for that, you need a special license. There is a license called Power BI Embedded License that you have to procure to be able to use Power BI. So this is a typical example of where you want, for example, you have your end of year results that normally you publish on your website. So if you have built your end of year results dashboards using Power BI, no need to recreate it using another tool to put it in your website. You can embed it directly, so it will connect directly to that Power BI and render that report from that website itself, right? So these are the couple of options that you have in terms of when you look at Power BI and all the products that is offered as part of Power BI. So it's not only one product, it's different layers, I would say, and different options that you have when you look at Power BI. Right. So let me try to simplify. So Power BI Desktop is where you build that report. Free of charge, you download it, you start building it. If you want to share it, you publish it on the cloud or on premise, whatever option you prefer. And there will be two options to use it. Either you connect to your Office 365 or to your Power BI account online, or you use your mobile phone to view those reports. So both options are there for you to use, either web or your mobile device, right? So let me highlight one point, because a lot of people have got the impression that, oh, probably would like to use Power BI Desktop only, right? So just to clarify, Power BI Desktop is the free tool, is the report authoring tool. And if you remove Power BI service in that equation, and we often, of course, you remove the Power BI mobile, but Power BI, because Power BI mobile will not work if you don't have a Power BI service at the back, whether the service is cloud-based or on-premise, right? So you can't connect a Power BI, you can't connect your Power BI mobile app to the Power BI desktop. This doesn't work, right? So you have to connect it to either a service where you have share or where you have published those reports. So there was a lot of questions around, can I use only Power BI Desktop and not use Power BI Service or Power BI Embedded or Power BI Report Server or even the mobile? Well, the technical answer is yes, you can use Power BI Desktop only, but then remember, Power BI Desktop is like Excel, exactly like Excel. So when you create a file with Power BI Desktop, it will create a PBIX file. So you can take this file and share it as you would send an Excel file by email or by shared drive or whatever. You can do it the same way. But remember, when you do it this way, the user, the one with whom you're sharing that Power BI Desktop file need to have Power BI Desktop installed, exactly like Excel. So you can't open an Excel file if you don't have Excel installed, right? Okay, so you have to have Power BI Desktop installed on both users, then you will be able to open the same report. But then again, if you do that, both users will have a separate file, or even if you put it on a shared folder, it works as well. But the thing is, they both will be able to modify the report, because it's a file. It's like an Excel file. So right. So if you want to control, you have to put permissions on the file level, etc. So well, yes, you can, but then you see that it hasn't been meant to be shared in this manner. Okay, Power BI Desktop is only the tool for you to build and create the report. Once you are done, you share it by using a Power BI service or by using a Power BI report server locally. Okay, right. So to summarize, Power BI is not only one product. Power BI is a suite of products comprising of Power BI Desktop, Power BI Service, Power BI Report Server, Power BI Mobile, right? They all makes up of the Power BI suite, right? So Power BI allows you to create reports that can be used either by the app or the portal, okay, or the web portal. So you can use Power BI to connect to a number of sources. I will show you the sources in a moment. Different type of sources that you can connect to. You can connect Power BI to an Excel file. You can connect Power BI to any different source, right? A lot of sources are possible. These sources can be on-prem. If you have servers locally or databases locally, you can connect your Power BI to those databases, or you can connect Power BI to any SaaS providers, for example, Google Analytics, or any other SaaS providers that you would like to connect to. You can use Power BI to connect. And like I said, you can also connect it to a website, right? So one report can have multiple sources, right? You can connect to one Excel, a database, a website, whatever. So it doesn't have any limitations in terms of the number of connections that you can have on a report. You have the ability to publish report. Either you publish it in the cloud or you publish it on premise, right? Two options, but you have to publish if you want to share, right? So you have the ability on Power BI to create dashboards, which is the nice look and feel that you see on reports or you have seen in the video. So there are two items that I'll be mentioning. So there are reports and there are dashboards, right? Two options that you have. So in Power BI desktop, you create reports, and on the cloud, you have the ability to create dashboards. I will show you afterwards what is the difference between reports and dashboard, right? Right, so it gives us a bit of an overview of what is Power BI. So just a word on licensing now. So, and this is where I would also expect some questions from you guys, because it's not 100% clear when you look for a lot of people. So I'm trying to clarify things here. Power BI desktop is free of charge. No discussion here. Free of charge, you download it, you create your reports, and that's it. Power BI service, so the cloud, what we call Power BI Cloud, has got two options. You have got the free option, which is free of charge. You can use it, has got some limitation. And there is a license option, right? So the license option costs you about $10 per user per month, right? Of course, the free option, it has got some limitations in terms of the size of the data that you can use, etc., etc. Power BI Mobile is also licensed through the Power BI service. So if you have Power BI service, automatically you are allowed to use Power BI Mobile. But the mobile application as such is free. Just to clarify, anybody can go and download the mobile application. But when you download the mobile application, it will ask you to connect to your Power BI account. So, and this is where you require a license. So it will be the same license as above. So the same licenses apply. So even if you're using a free account, you can also use the Power BI Mobile. Power BI Embedded is where you can take your Power BI embedded in a website. This has got a special license, right? It's not the same. It's not the $10 per month. It's another license that you have to get. You have to procure, right? And then, of course, Power BI Report Server is also licensed. So you have to have Power BI Report Server license, which comes with either a Power BI Premium or a Power BI Enterprise license if you want to install it locally, right? So if you look at the Power BI pricing, it says that there are two options. Either you buy a Power BI Pro account, right, which is the price that you're seeing here, $9.99 per user per month, or you can also, for large scale and advanced analytics, or if you want to install Power BI on premise, you need to have Power BI Premium, okay, which costs about $4,995 per month, right? And this is not a per user license. This is a compute license, so it doesn't have any limitation in terms of the users, number of users using the reports. Right. So I am open now to any questions that you guys might have on that licensing part. So if anybody has got any questions, you can unmute and then ask your question. I'm taking question in English or French as you want, or you can also type in the questions if you want.
Okay. Hi, Akhtar. Vivek here from
Yes.
Nairobi. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So, as you mentioned that Power BI desktop and Power BI services, there are two type of services is available, and desktop is 100% free. So just on a desktop version, is there any limitation on the reports you can do it if you have free desktop version?
No, there is no limitation on the
So
number
you
of
can do
reports
the
you can
same
build.
thing as you can.
Yeah, it's like you have Excel installed, you create as many Excel sheets as you want.
Okay, okay, that's it. That's it. That's the question.
No limitation on the Power BI desktop as such. But again, you won't be able to share it. It's going to create a file for you. Of course, you can send that file on a network drive, or you can send that file by mail or whatever you want. But it's a file, right? So it's a file. So which means that it creates a copy each and every time you send it to someone. It's not a central
Got it.
repository where you're sharing, that file.
Okay, I've got it. Thanks.
Any other questions from anyone? No? Okay. Right, so this is the licensing part. Just a quick word on the licensing as well. So you will notice that Power BI can be purchased separately, so Power BI Pro, but it comes also with Microsoft 365 E5 plan. So it's included in the E5 plan, right? So for those who has got customers or have got E5, so you also have the ability to use Power BI. So I just want to highlight one thing here. So for those having any other enterprise plans, you will see, if you are the tenant admin, you will see that you have the ability to provide your users with the Power BI free account, which is the free license, right? But the free license has got, again, some limitations. But yes, and free licenses, if you use Power BI Cloud with the free license, you are not allowed, you will not have the ability to share the reports to your colleagues. Okay, free account is for personal use. You create your own report, you publish it for your own use. You can't share it with other users, right? So this is one of the limitations. Another limitation is about the size, right? So there is a size limitation on Power BI, which is approximately one gig per user for a free account and 10 gig per user for a Pro account, right? So this is the space that you have, 10 gigabyte that you have if you have a Power BI Pro license. So what is this space? What is this size? What is it made of? Actually, the Power BI Pro account, the 10 gigabyte, is the number of reports, because each time you create a report, you build a report, it consumes space in the cloud. So for that space, you have up to 10 gigabyte that you can use, right? So the more, I'll get back to when we talked about data, but the more you import data in a Power BI, the more the report gets big and the more it consumes space, right? So if you can connect, you can use what we call direct connection. It will not import data in your Power BI, and of course the report will be very, very small, right? Let's start with Power BI desktop, right? So Power BI Desktop, again, it's the free tool, right? The tool that you can use to create, to download. You download it, you create reports, and you do a lot of stuff with them. So I will just give you a quick demo of what you can do with Power BI. I'll just share my screen and let me know if you can see my Power BI desktop. So this is Power BI desktop, right? So it's basically looks like a reporting tool. And just to give you a quick brief of what we are looking at now is Power BI desktop has got an update, I would say literally nearly every month or every 2 months, right? So if you look at my Power BI desktop, you would see that it is running version March 2020, right? So there is a lot of updates happening at Power BI desktop. So every 2 months or sometimes a month, we have new releases. So new release means you can upgrade your Power BI desktop. It doesn't affect your previous reports. Okay, on the contrary, there are many options that get added to your Power BI desktop. For example, sometimes you will see new visuals. Okay, these are the visuals, right? So I'll get a bit more details afterwards, but you have new visuals sometimes. You have more and more visuals that get into Power BI. Right. So first thing, how do you get started with Power BI desktop? How you start building reports and how does it look like? So I will give you an example of a small Excel file that I have, okay, which looks like this. Okay, small Excel file. It's about trips. Okay, so trips to other countries, visiting clients or whatever. So everybody would have something like that, and you would want to do some nice look and feel, some nice reports on those travel plan, right? So of your colleagues or whoever is doing the report. So first thing you do in Power BI desktop, you connect your Power BI to the data, right? So you go get data, and here, if I go into get data more, you see that you will have the ability to connect to all these sources. These are all supported sources. You can see there's a lot of them, right? So you can connect to Excel, you can connect to CSV, you can connect even to a PDF. What this does, and this is a nice functionality, this reads the PDF, extract the information by using OCR, and you can do reporting based on that. So you can imagine you receive a statement from the bank, you want to extract those information to build a report, you can do that using that PDF import functionality, right? So you can connect to any other sources, non-Microsoft sources, IBM, MySQL, SAP databases. So these are all on-premise database. You can connect to cloud systems, for example, Azure database, not even Microsoft, not only Azure and Microsoft, but you can connect to other sources like Salesforce, Google Analytics, Adobe, etc., etc. So you can connect to many sources. You can see the list of sources that are available here, and this keeps on increasing, right? So every month or 2 months, we have new sources that are being added to that list, giving Power BI more and more power and more ability to connect to different sources and to allow you to have like a one place where you can have all your reports. So I will start by a simple example. So let me start with an Excel file. So I'll connect to that Excel file, which was my travel plan. Okay, this is my travel plan. So it reads the file and reads the sheet and reads the data, right? You can see it reads the data, interprets the data properly, So I can see trip number, etc., is properly. So I can now say load. Okay. So I'm just waiting for Power BI to create the model. I'll get back to what is the model in a while. So basically what is happening now, Power BI is reading that Excel file. Okay, it's reading that Excel file and trying to analyze that Excel file. So what is it doing here? Actually, Power BI is making what we call a cube out of that file. Okay, because when Power BI looks at data, whatever data you give him, for example, now I have given him a simple Excel file with a couple of columns, right? So Power BI looks at the data and say, okay, what can I analyze out of this data? Okay, so basically this is what Power BI does. Takes an Excel file and say, okay, it tries to analyze this Excel file. Try to say, okay, it tries to figure out what you would want from this file. So first thing, he analyzes what are the columns that are type numeric numbers. So he will highlight them like this, right, and say, okay, this is a numeric column. So Power BI trying to guess that, okay, this is the column that you would want to analyze data for. And this is what we want to do. So we want to analyze how many we have spent by region, for example, or by person, right? Or by date, or whatever. Or how many has been approved, how many hasn't been approved. So this is the first thing that Power BI does. Of course, for this particular Excel sheet, it will also see the trip number as a numeric, which is not 100% correct. But looking at the data, it seems that it is something that we want to analyze for, but it doesn't have any sense here. It's only a number. So if you look at these two columns that I've highlighted here, and if you look at the Power BI result, just see what Power BI has done here in fields. You will see that there is something called cost, which has got a small summation note, and trip number. So what Power BI does, it recognizes the column, it knows that, okay, this is of type numeric, so this is what we are going to analyze for. And the others are only how we are going to view those data. So in BI language, right, so in BI language, the yellow, and I will color this one green. So in BI language, Power BI identify the yellow columns as what we call, let me just put a note here. Power BI identify this column as what in BI we would say measures. And this one, all of the rest become dimensions. Right, so, and I will give you another example of what I mean by measures and dimensions in a while. So this is what Power BI calls a measure, all the figures, right? And the rest are dimensions. Actually, this is exactly what, okay, I'll just remove that for a while. If you are used to Excel, you're used to pivot table, right? So this is exactly what happens in a pivot table. So when you do pivot table, what happens? First, you choose what you want to analyze for, the values. And this is what happens. It tells you, okay, there is 452,000 total of costs for your travel. And then you can say, now give me by region. Okay, now give me by purpose, for example. So you start building stuff, right? So a pivot table is a matrix. It gives you a summation of it doesn't give you a listing. right? This is what Power BI pivot table gives you. Well, this is exactly what Power BI is. Power BI is a pivot table but with much more capacities and functionalities. Because if I do this, if I just say now, show me the total cost, and I start building my report just like this, show me the total cost and change that visual. I don't want a bar chart, I want a card. So now I'm starting to create my report, and the first block is okay. It tells me I have 452 Ks, which if you remember was exactly the same sum we had in that pivot table. So I start building my report like this, and then I would say, okay, very simply, now show me my total cost by country. Okay, and I want that in another visual. So it start building more visual. Okay, and I can increase that size. I can now say, okay, show me, for example, by purpose. How many has been there for marketing reasons? How many has been there for training purposes or whatever, etc., etc. And of course, I want to see a visual by date. Okay, so if I choose date from, so Power BI has got, if you see what happens here, Power BI puts only the year with some options here. When I click on the year, it goes and split into quarters. And when I click on the quarters, it goes and split into month. And when I click on the month, it's split by date, right? So Power BI has got what we call time intelligence. Power BI understands what is time. Time for him is not only a date, it has got a number of different possibilities or extensions. So a time can be a date, a month, a year, a quarter, a semester, whatever you want to analyze the data. So then I can scroll up and come to a year. And if you have noticed, all these visuals are somehow linked to each other. For example, now I see that, okay, in 2019, this much I have done by quarter, fair enough. So I see that I've spent that much money, okay, 300,000 in training, for training purposes. I've been traveling for training purposes. And if I click on training, you will see it filter down all the rest, and it gives me, okay, training, this is the cost, and this is, you have been there, for example, only in the US, all the rest you can see it faded out, so only US is there. So if I re-click on training, and then I would say, let me choose deliveries. So delivery, you will see now, sorry, again, it filtered down, and you can see, okay, delivery, I have this and this. All the rest are faded out, and you can see the amount and the quarters. All the rest are automatically synchronized with each other, right? So you can very quickly and easily, I can remove them, and I can decide to show different, I can see how many I've spent by user. Okay, and I can even, you know, show a table like this. So you can show visual, you can show table. There's a number of stuff that you can show. And what you can do, obviously, is let us say, okay, this is my cost by my people. Now I want to use other aspect. I want to say, okay, my cost by country, and I want to try and view that in a map. Let's see if it works. It depends, it takes the country. Okay, it works. So you can see, without having to write a single line of code or any change to my data. Okay, I just had US, Madagascar, South Africa, France, and you can see what happens here is it brings a small dot on the countries. So the bigger the dot, the more money you have spent, right? So you can see here, this is Paris, France. So I've spent that much money, Madagascar that much money, and US that much money. So it makes it bigger. So the bigger so you easily can build some nice looking graph or map kind of report that has got exactly where you have, or your, if it would have been an income report, you would see exactly where you're getting money from, or this is an expense one, so I'm seeing where I'm spending more money in terms of traveling expenses or business trip, right? So this is how you can quickly build report using Power BI Desktop. So now when you look at the data, right? So let me just, right. So looking at the data, so in Power BI, this is what we call a Power BI page, right? So you have a page, you can start moving things around, etc., etc., right? So when you look at, you can also explore the data at the back, or you can also do something like this. Okay, let me just put some, right? So this is my chart. Okay, this is the amount, the total amount I've spent. And if you want to do some filters by date, for example, so I have something here called a slicer, right? And I want to use date. So you can see how it builds up the slicer. And I can use some nice, like this, I can just slice it down. So automatically it will focus on only the areas where I have data. So I can further focus down, and of course you would see that it goes down, and now I'm limited only to Madagascar, so I can go further in time or whatever. So you can choose where you want to filter the data. Everything got filtered, right? So here there is no data for this period. So this is 28 to 22nd of October. So there is no data. Here you have some data, right? So these are filtering capabilities, right? So all these visuals here you can change. Anytime you want to change this to a line, okay, it doesn't make sense this one to a line, but you can change it to a bar. It will just adapt and change, right? So not very complicated to use Power BI Desktop. Right, now Power BI Desktop is way more powerful. For example, you can decide, you can say, okay, let me have a look at the data. So when you look at the data here, you have a view on your Excel sheet, right? The data from your Excel sheet. So you can say, right, fine, so this is my data. Of course, you can't change it. Okay, you cannot change the data here, because remember, Power BI allows you to do analysis of your data and not changing the data. However, you can decide to format the data. This is possible, right? So if I go back to my, for example, my country, I want to say that this is formatted. Right now, there's no format attached to it. Okay, there's no format. So Power BI doesn't know, even though that he managed to find in the map. So to make this more precise, we can start formatting these data. For example, country. I want to say that, okay, I want to format this as, so in the modeling tab, select country, and then, oops, right, so category, sorry, yeah. In the column tools category, there's something called country. So I will format this as a country. So Power BI knows that, okay, this is a country. What happens is when you use map, okay, now I have used country name, so it's easy to find. If you would have used some region name or addresses, etc., then you have to find it. You have to configure it properly. For example, location, right? So location, you have to configure it properly to say that this is a place or an address or a city. So let me say that this is a city. So what happened here is you would notice that Power BI puts a small map icon next to these columns, because it allows Power BI to be more precise when you use different type of visuals, right? So I can do the same thing for cost. I can say cost, for example, is a whole number or a decimal, a percentage, or whatever you want. So you want decimal places, etc. You want commas. It depends on how you want to present information. You can change the format here. Right? You can't change the data, but you can apply some formatting. Right. So now, when you look at the data, when Power BI looks at the data, I've told you in the beginning that Power BI, what it does, Power BI does a cube of the data, makes it look like a pivot table, okay? But a much more complex pivot table, because a normal pivot table will allow you to see by 2 dimensions. A Power BI, I would say, cube is multi-dimensional. So multi-dimensional means that you can view the data by country, by region, by date, by statuses, whatever you want. You can view the data and you can have multiple visuals on the same page. Okay. Right. So this is about how Power BI queries the data, right? So you can query a number of data and data sources with Power BI. So I'll give you another example of what type of data you can query. Let me just quickly create another page. And I will take you to a site. Okay. I'm just taking any site. So I will take this one, which pretty much nice, or for all those who like movies, right? If you connect to IMDb, IMDb is a site that gives you information on movies, okay? Forthcoming movies or whatever. So, right. So if I look at this site, I want Power BI to query this site because I am in the movies business. I need to know what is coming, or I need to know what is the best rated. I need to have a lot of information on movies because this has an impact on my business. So let me say, for example, I want to read the top rated movies. So I've just connected to IMDb and I've been to this site and I'm getting some data. It tells me that, okay, these are the movies and this is how they've been rated. Okay, and I want to use that information in my database, in my report. So I can just select that URL, as easy as getting that URL, going to Power BI, doing get data, and choosing as data source simply, let's just wait for that to load. So I will use from here something called web, right? So web is where you can connect to any website, whatever be the website, you can connect to it just by using the URL. So you can see on that same report, I'm connected to that Excel file. And now I'm using the same report, just another page, to connect to another source, which is completely unstructured because it's a website, right? And I want to retrieve all those movies. So let's give it a minute to try to pump all those top chart from that website. And of course, every time you open your report, it will refresh and it will go and fetch those data. Of course, if tomorrow the website doesn't exist, your report doesn't work, right? So let's be clear. So you can see that when Power BI reads that website, he finds, okay, so let's see if we can select it. Right. All right, so you can see that it managed to pick a table, and the table reads, okay, all the name, including the rating, which is what I'm interested in. So I would say, fine, I want to use that data. Okay, so I'm done with this. So I've shown you how you can easily connect to any website, and this can be extrapolated to any website. So you want to connect to a website to get exchange rates, or you want to get I don't know, the rate of wheat or petrol or whatever you want. So you can connect and get those information that can help you to build your report, and it will be definitely dynamic information, right? So let's wait for the data to come back, which I think is done. So you can see here, table 0, it has brought some columns there, right? So this is about the first aspect of Power BI, which is connecting to different data sources. Now I will show you on that same example how you can manipulate those data sources, of course, without changing the root, the source, right, which you can't do in this case or any other case. Even the Excel, you can't change the source from Power BI. Same thing applies here. If I look at, so there are in Power BI desktop, there are 3 different tabs. So there's a report tab, which we are on, the data tab, and the relationship tab. Right? So let's forget about the relationship for now. Let's talk about the data tab. The data tab has got the ability to view the data, like I've shown you for the Excel sheet, but I can also view the data of that web that I've retrieved information from. Right? So what I want to do here is I want to do a bit of cleansing because this doesn't look clean. There are columns that I don't need. For example, this column, okay, yes, it brought the column because it was there somehow on that website, but I don't need that column. I don't need that rating column. I just only need that IMDb rating and the rank and the title. And even in the rank and the title, I don't need that number here. Okay. So I can do a couple of manipulations in my data. And this is where I want to talk about a second functionality of Power BI, which is manipulating data, or the proper word is transforming data, right? So I can connect to a source, I can transform the data without changing, of course, the source, transform the data, make it look the way I want, because this is how I want to present it on my report. I don't want to present, for example, my father and my son with 150. It doesn't make sense. I just want to show the name of the film, okay, of the movie, and not the number, right? So we have to do a couple of manipulations on that data. And when you look at Power BI, Power BI has got 3 different core functionalities. First, Power BI can connect and retrieve data from different sources. Second functionality of Power BI is transforming the data. Okay, changing the data, making it, cleaning the data, changing the data, formatting the data, making the data look like what we have to present. And the third core functionality of Power BI is presenting the data, right? So there are 3 key pillars of Power BI. Source, reading source data, transforming the data, and presenting the data, right? So where do we go to change the data? Of course, to manipulate and transform the data. So there is something here on the top of the ribbon called transform data. So I will just go and hit on transform data. So it will load all my tables, so I can choose which one I want to work from. So I would say I want to work from that table 0. The first thing I want to do is I want to rename that table 0, and I want to call that movies. Okay, simple so far. Second thing I want to do on that data, I want to remove columns that I don't need. So I will just right click, remove, and remove, and remove. Okay, so for now I have a more or less clean data. So the next thing I want to do is, how do I remove that 1 in front of that movie name? Okay, so there is something in Power BI called add a column. I have to add a column, and there is something called add a column from example. So I would select that column and click add a column from example. And I will just type in how I want the column to look like. I want to say that the column should be the with the year, because this is what I want. Sorry about that. Keep it the same. Just removing the number in front, so I have missed something. That's it. I just go enter and see what it does for the rest. Okay, so this is learn from example. Creating a column in Excel, you would have to write a formula for that. Okay, fine. Well, this is what Power BI does for you, right? Power BI wrote the formula for us. Okay, it says the formula is, this is what you can read. Okay. I can show you more about this item here. So it just finds a delimiter and try to eliminate whatever is after the delimiter, which is the space in occurrence here, right? So this is how Power BI works with data, right? So you transform data. So now I have something that I can work from. So once I'm done with formatting my data, I can say close and apply. Right, so that's it. Data has been changed. If I want to have a look at the data here, if I go to data, okay, so let's see how it looks like. Give it a minute. Let's see, movies. Right, so you can see now, these were the initial columns. This is the rating, and this is the text that has been created by the learn from example column. So now I can use this data to present on my report if I want to report on that. So I can use this data straight away here. I can present this information using a table on my report. I can just choose show me the rating and show me the name. That's it. So I have got a report with the name of my movies, right? So which comes straight away from that IMDb website, right? Same thing, I can create reports about my Facebook post, right? So if you are doing campaigns, marketing campaigns, and you're using social networking, Facebook or whatever, where you are promoting your products and you're doing posts, you can connect your data using Power BI. First, you connect your data to your sales data. And secondly, you connect it to Facebook. If I show you here, you have the ability to connect to, why not? Not anymore. Let me see. The online services should be there. Oops. No, it doesn't show up anymore. Anyway, okay. But you could connect to sources like Facebook, etc., to retrieve your posts. I don't see it right now on my Power BI. I don't know why. Okay, anyway. Right, so this is an example of how you can connect to unstructured sources, and this is how you can manipulate the data and change the data using transformation, right? So couple of stuff that you have to bear in mind when using Power BI is when you start building reports, because what we are doing right now is we are building reports. These are all reports, right? So there are a couple of stuff that you have to understand. Let me take an example of this particular report. So when I open this report, it is actually showing me values, right? So filtered values or non-filtered values. These are non-filtered values, right? So what we have to see there is you have to create a journey, right, when using Power BI, because when somebody will open this report, by default, Power BI will query the data and present him with the whole of the data, right, without filtering the data by whatever mean, date or whatever. So you have to, first of all, when you start building your report, ask yourself, okay, who will view this report and at what interval? Is it something that the users will view on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, or whatever? So then you start configuring your reports with filters. So for example, if I want this report to show only data, so when remember when you open that report, this is the dynamic report. So when you open that report, somebody has to configure these reports to see, okay, what data am I looking at? So there's something here called filters. You can see that there's filters on the page. You can add a filter for this page, or you can add filter for all pages, right? Filters is how you want to see your data. Let me just give you an example by filtering data using date. So I will add a filter to this page. And because Power BI has got time intelligence, it detects that, okay, this is a date, and it gives me the ability to do relative date filtering. Relative means I can ask Power BI to show me the data in the last 3 days. If I do that, it will give me the data in the last 3 days. There is no data, of course. If I show in the next 3 days, it will give me data for the next 3 days. So if I show in the, for example, in this now, I can say in this year, it will give me data only for this year. Or I can say in the last years. So it will accumulate data for the past 3 years or for the past 2 years, right? So this is an important aspect of Power BI, which is about filtering your data even before somebody when somebody opens the report. So you have to decide, because if you don't filter the data, it will just display all the data. So imagine if you connect this to a database which has got 10 years of history, all the figures that you will see will be for the last 10 years, right? So you have to decide whether you want to view only for this month or only for this year, or however you want to view the data. You can say that the first page is for this year. You create another page for per month, another page per week. However you want to view the data, you can view it using that filter here. So you have to pre-filter the report. This is very important. So because again, if you don't filter, it will show you all the data. And by default, Power BI, it doesn't filter the report. You have to filter it, right? So one way to filter the report is using that filters on page. Okay. Yes. Do we have a question? Questions from anyone? No?
Okay, Akhtar, yeah, I do have a question. So you said that the user or the person who's creating the report, he's supposed to do the filtering of the data. Is it does not work like Excel? Like if I receive an Excel sheet and whatever filter I have to put it, I can do it and I can view the way I want it. So is the person who's viewing it, does he can also do the same?
Yes. Well, there are two things, right? So these page filters are there to set the scene, if I want to make it like this, right? So once you have said, okay, show me the data for the past 3 years, then any user, or even you can say, it can also be that you don't put filter, and you start by putting things like this. So you say, okay, I want a first filter, which is going to show, for example, the so if I show like this, I want a first filter that I want to show by year, right? So and then I make that a drop down. So first you choose year, right? So you can, this is one thing. You can also make another filter. Now I want to choose country. Okay, I just copy paste that, and I just change, instead of viewing the date, I will view the country, right? Remove that and put country instead, right? So this is, in this manner, the user filters his own report. So when somebody will open this report, it will have the, he will have the ability to choose 2019 and to choose which country, for example, Madagascar, and the report will filter down, or South Africa or France or whatever. Yeah. So this you can do as well. Okay, you can put filters where the user can choose what they want to filter. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah, got it. Got it. I got it.
Yeah. But again, to pre-filter is just to create a journey for the users, right? So if you want to create a journey, you want them to start somewhere and then to go somewhere. This is what I mean by creating a journey. I'll give you an example of what I mean by creating a journey. So if I connect to my Power BI cloud this time, okay. So it's not desktop, it's whatever I've built and I've published on my Power BI cloud. I'll show you an example of a complete dashboard, how you can create things and make user navigate into a reporting or into dashboards, right? So what I'm connecting to right now is the Power BI cloud, right? This is the Power BI cloud service. This is a pro account. So this is where you can share, etc., with all your users, right? So this gives me an overview of my report. Okay, so I can see that I've got a report called Retail Analysis. So I will open that report, and that report gives me a lot of information. Okay, gives me ability to view by district, ability to filter, so I can filter by specific user. I can now say, now I want to view this by this store, and I can further drill down, you know, by this particular category or whatever. So I can choose. So this is what you would do. This is what a normal user would do while consuming a report, right? So in the Power BI cloud, you have also what we call dashboards, which is a little bit different from what you see in a normal report. So let me just show you a sales dashboard. Right, so this is a sales dashboard, which basically uses all the different reports that I have at the back. So if I go to this one, I just click on it, it will just filter down to give me more details. But again, it's the same report I've shown you earlier, right? So if I go to my first page, overview page, I can see that this is an overview page. It tells me, okay, I have got 10 new stores, 104 stores in total, and these are how my sales are organized, right? So if I want to navigate, because this, again, this has got some preset filters, and the filters or not, let's have a look. Yeah, so it has got some preset filters. So you can see now I have got, this is my report. So as an executive, I'm viewing this report. So what this gives me is, okay, I have 10 new stores. If I click on the 10 new stores, for example, I can go to, I haven't activated that, but if I go to new stores, I have details on my new stores. What makes up my new stores and how are my sales doing on those new stores, etc. On a monthly basis, I can follow up what is happening. And of course, all these are there for you to filter, right? So this report, I have created it, I have published it. Now, if I want to share it, I have the ability here to do share, right? You would not have this option in Power BI desktop, right? So now you can see, okay, I want to send this report to some user, for example, to DJ, let's say. So I can say, okay, this user can, do I want to allow, for example, this user to share on his, now to reshare it, yes or no, etc., etc., right? So these are sharing capabilities that you have only in the when you publish a report, okay? Right, so let's go back to our Power BI desktop. Okay, so this is my report with my filters. So now what I want to do is, now I have created this report, I want to publish that report, right? So I want to publish that report, so I can go file. Again, of course, I can save it. Okay, first thing, I want to save that report. This. Okay, so this is now saved locally. Of course, if I want to share that, I want to first do a publish. So it asks me to publish to Power BI. So it will connect to my Power BI. As you can see, it asks me to log in. So I will log into my Power BI. So it will just take a while to log in and connect. Right, so it asks me where do I want to put this. So I will just say put it in my workspace. I can publish this to Teams as well, right? So if you're using Teams, I can use Teams as well to publish my report. Right, so it's published. So I will just now go to my Power BI, go to my workspace. This is where it was published. And let's see how it looks like. So
hi, actor, it's Tahir. Hi, sorry. One quick question here. Actor, if we have to publish it on SharePoint, is it something possible on the site?
Yeah, so good question. Power BI, there are only two areas, because remember when you want to view that Power BI, you can only view it within a Power BI engine. And today there's only two Power BI engine. There is only the cloud and the Power BI on premise. You can't publish a Power BI on SharePoint as such. Okay. You can view it from SharePoint, of course, but you can't publish it to SharePoint. I will show you what I mean by publishing it, viewing it on SharePoint. So as you can see on my Power BI, I have only the ability to do publish to SharePoint. I can also publish it to a report server, but again, it's not a SharePoint, right? You can't.
Okay.
Yeah, direct answer is no, you can't. But I will show you what you can do. So this is the report. Okay, Power BI day 1. This is my report. Right, so it looks exactly what I have built. So now, if I want to view that, there are a couple of ways that I can view that. Right. First of all, I can open up a SharePoint. Okay, so let me just open up quickly a SharePoint site. For all those that are familiar with SharePoint, so this is SharePoint Online. Let me just quickly add, go to a demo site. Right. So what you can do here is, if you want to view that report, okay, in SharePoint, let's say I will create a page. Okay. A basic page in SharePoint. Right, and this is going to be my Power BI, sorry, my travel expense. What? So remember, first it has to sit in SharePoint, in Power BI. So once you have it published in Power BI, then only you can add it in SharePoint. So when you click on SharePoint here, in SharePoint, then you can add a Power BI snippet, and then you can add a report. But for this to exist, first you have to publish that report in the Power BI Cloud. And here it only works with Power BI Cloud, right? You can't connect this to Power BI on premise. So just give it a minute, it will just load BI. It will just load all the reports that I can connect to. So not right now, it's trying to connect to my Power BI. So this is my Power BI and this is my link to my report. So I will just take it here, right? And that's it.
Akhtar, just a quick one, since it's loading the data. I believe that once you do the sharing on the SharePoint, you can just view it. You cannot edit it, or you cannot not edit it, like you cannot filter it.
Well, no, when you share this page, see, when you share this page, I can filter it. Of course I can. I'm in SharePoint and I'm filtering my data as I would filter in Power BI. But again, the point is, if you do this in SharePoint, like this is, nobody will know that this is Power BI. You agree with me? Apart from the loading, it says Power BI loading. Apart from that, everything works fine. Okay. So if I show you like this, you will see all the filtering will work, even on the chart or on the bar chart or whatever. Everything will work as if you are in Power BI. But you have to make sure that, not make sure, but you have to understand that if you take this page and you share it, everybody will access your SharePoint. But when this page will load, it will try to use that login of that account. For example, here, that user, it will try to use this account to open this Power BI. And if this account doesn't have a Power BI Pro, it will not display the report. If this was your question. You got my point?
Yeah, I got your point. I understand that, yes, of course, you do sort of filtering, but yes, the functionality overall is not 100%. But yes, of course, you cannot even believe that it's Power BI from the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks in SharePoint, it renders in SharePoint. And of course, you have the user who's viewing that report, whether you're viewing that report within a SharePoint or within a Power BI, you need that license. Once you have the license, you will be able to view it. And then, yes, you don't even need to go to, to the Power BI screen as such. So you can view it directly. So imagine if you have a SharePoint site running as an intranet or whatever, you can quickly use that and view within the SharePoint itself. No need to publish it to Power BI. Sorry, you have to publish it, but no need to navigate to that Power BI app, the Power BI service screen here, which is app.powerbi.com to view your reports. You can view it directly from SharePoint, but you can't publish it to SharePoint, right? Let's be clear. You cannot publish it to SharePoint, but you can view it in SharePoint, right?
All right.
So
Okay.
any so far.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Bhavna.
Yes, Bhavna.
It's regarding yes. This report report can be viewed by several users, right? Okay.
Right.
And let's say that we have to segregate data, their view access. Like I have access to certain location, and my other colleagues, other users have access to certain locations. Then how are you going to implement this? Because you're not going to use filters.
Yes, definitely. Well, there are two ways to implement. So the question was, how do we segregate data?
Yes,
If, for
exactly.
example, for the same report, some people have access to specific region and other people have access to other region. So there are two ways to deal with this. Either you put data permission access to the data, which is one way of doing things, right? Or in Power BI, you have the ability to use what we call, I'll just show you on my screen. you have something called roles in Power BI. Roles are basically row level filtering. It's a sort of filter, right, that you can use. So imagine I am the one creating the report, right? So I want to share it with somebody, but of course, when I share it, they will not be able to remove the roles. So I can create roles. So basically roles would say, for example, this is a regional, this is Europe regional manager. Right? So I'm using this, and I can say not the movies one. So I can create filter here. I can say, for example, I want the country to be equal to, let us say, France, and the username. Okay, I don't have the column username as such here, and the manager to be equal to, let us say, Jane, something like that. Okay. I have manager. Do I have manager? I have approver. So this means that this will look up, sorry, and not approver, but user, right? Username. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, let me just check if this is correct. Okay. Yeah. Right. So what you have to do here is you create a filter that will be built in the report. So basically it will use filter in a way, but it will filter based on the user that is connecting, right? So it will try to see whether the user is actor, and if it is actor, it will filter for France only. So it will give me France data only, for example. Okay, so this is the way that you have in Power BI to manage data. Of course, apart from the fact that if you have a data warehouse, then you can control access on that data warehouse also. But in Power BI, if you don't have, if for example your database is completely open, then you have to use roles. Okay, and roles is filters with the one specific functionality is you can filter by the logon user. This user tag means the logon user. So whoever is logged on to that Power BI will be able to view that data. But again, this will not work in Power BI desktop. Okay, in Power BI desktop, anybody will be able to come in and remove those roles. Right? These are configuration that if you share that Power BI desktop as such, it's as if you're sharing that Excel file without security. So anybody can come and remove your formula and change your formula. This is exactly how it works. So if you want this to work, you have to publish it and share it. And when you share it, nobody will be able to change that rule, because you can't change rule once a file is published. You have to have the source file to change the rule. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Actor.
Okay, any other question before we do a quick break? No? So far,
I have a question on the web page. On the, if you can go back to the web front, on the home page,
yes.
on the crowd.
Okay,
How do you
cloud one? Okay.
How do you customize the home page? I'm used to SharePoint, whereby I can customize my home page. Is it possible to customize this home page?
No, you can't customize it the way you would customize in SharePoint, unfortunately. This page comes up as it is. You can do some minor stuff, but basically this is the page that you can't customize. It just brings up data as and when you use that information, right? So you can't customize this page.
Oh, okay. That has been one of my concerns with the users, but okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other question? Okay, guys, so what I suggest is we do a quick 10 minutes break, And then if you guys have got questions, meanwhile, I will take questions just before we start. And then, of course, as we go along, we can take further questions. Right, so let's do a quick 10 minutes break and I'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you.